Well, it's a desk, but it's not really a desk. It's actually a gun.
A seller came in earlier with a sword pistol with an asking price of $20,000.
The lights of Las Vegas never sleep, but behind the neon glow, one pawn shop became a global obsession. Millions tuned in for treasure hunts and hard bargains.
We have some coins from Kentucky.
Yet what looked unstoppable was quietly unraveling, leaving fans to wonder, when did the illusion break? The golden beginning. In 1989, long before television cameras arrived, a modest pawn shop opened its doors just a few blocks off the Las Vegas Strip. It was called the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, founded by Rick Harrison and his father, Richard the Old Man Harrison. To locals, it was just another family business. To Rick, it was a lifeline. He had dropped out of high school, but he carried a sharp instinct for negotiation. He understood something simple but powerful. In a pawn shop, every object has a story, and every story has a price. For 2 decades, the Harrisons quietly built their business, serving a city defined by risk-takers and gamblers. Yet their true windfall didn't come from gold or silver. It came in 2009, when the History Channel took a gamble of its own. At a time when reality television was exploding with shows like American Pickers and Storage Wars, producers saw potential in this family-run shop. They imagined not just transactions, but history lessons wrapped in everyday drama. When Pawn Stars premiered, it was unlike anything else. A Revolutionary War musket could appear one moment, a signed Beatles record the next. Each item came with context, with Rick delivering history lessons that made viewers feel they had stumbled into a classroom hidden inside a pawn shop. The formula was irresistible: real people, real stakes, and the tantalizing promise that buried treasures might walk through the door at any moment. Pawn Stars wasn't just another show, it was lightning in a bottle. Fame strikes harder than expected. Success didn't creep up on Pawn Stars. It hit like a tidal wave. Within 2 years of its debut, the show was drawing more than 7 million viewers per episode, making it one of the most watched programs in the History Channel's history. For a series about a family pawn shop, the numbers were staggering. Almost overnight, the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop transformed from a dusty Las Vegas storefront into a global attraction. Tourists lined up around the block, not for a loan or a deal, but for a glimpse of Rick, Corey, Chumlee, and the Old Man. Souvenirs flew off the shelves: t-shirts, mugs, bobbleheads. Every character was now a brand. The cast themselves became household names. Rick, with his bald head and encyclopedic memory, was suddenly appearing on late-night talk shows. The Old Man's gruff one-liners turned him into a cult figure. Even Chumlee, once the comic relief, became an unlikely fan favorite. Their fame reached beyond the History Channel. In 2012, they made cameo appearances on The Middle and iCarly, cementing their place in pop culture. Rick admitted he never saw it coming. "I just wanted to make a living," he said in an interview, "and suddenly, we're on top of the world." The show had turned a family business into an empire, proof that even the most ordinary shop could become extraordinary with the right mix of timing, character, and luck. For a while, it seemed like nothing could touch them. But meteoric success carries a hidden weight. The brighter Pawn Stars shone, the more it risked burning out its own magic. What began as a family shop turned tourist attraction was no longer just about bargains and history lessons. It was about sustaining a phenomenon. And with that pressure, the first cracks began to show. Cracks beneath the surface. At first, the success felt unstoppable. Viewers tuned in for the thrill of unpredictability. You never knew if the next customer would carry in a priceless Civil War sword or a worthless trinket from a garage sale. But as the seasons rolled on, something began to shift. The surprises started to feel a little too convenient. Fans noticed the patterns. The customers walking through the door were almost always camera-ready, often arriving with rare or historically significant items that just happened to appear at the perfect moment. Experts seemed to be available within minutes, delivering polished mini-lectures on cue. Rick's familiar refrain, "I've got a buddy who can take a look at this," once felt authentic. Over time, it became a catchphrase for predictability. Online forums lit up with speculation. Reddit threads dissected episodes frame by frame, with fans questioning how genuine the walk-ins really were. YouTube channels began breaking down what they called the Pawn Stars formula, showing how every negotiation fit neatly into a tidy 3-act structure. What once felt chaotic and unscripted was slowly revealing the fingerprints of television producers. The loss of spontaneity was more than a creative issue. It chipped away at the very foundation of the show's appeal. The thrill came from not knowing what would happen next, from the gamble of real negotiation. When the deals began looking rehearsed, the illusion cracked. Yet audiences kept watching. Perhaps they wanted to believe the magic was still real, or perhaps Pawn Stars had become a comfort show, predictable but familiar. Either way, the authenticity that once made the series electric was beginning to erode. The golden formula that had made Pawn Stars a cultural phenomenon was now planting the seeds of its downfall. The shark jump. Every long-running show faces a tipping point, the moment when it stops being what it was and becomes something else entirely. For Pawn Stars, that moment arrived with a splash. Instead of celebrating everyday people and their surprising artifacts, the show began to chase spectacle. Celebrity cameos were the first sign. Bob Dylan strolling in to get a guitar, appraised. Steve Carell casually appearing as though he had wandered in from a sitcom set. The episodes played like stunts. Fans weren't watching a pawn shop anymore. They were watching a TV series about its own fame. The premise had flipped. Then came the spin-offs. Pawnography, a trivia game show, turned the brand into something closer to late-night entertainment than reality television. International adaptations like Pawn Stars UK tried to clone the formula abroad. The History Channel lineup began filling with related series: Counting Cars, American Restoration, Cajun Pawn Stars. Instead of feeling like an empire, it felt like overexposure. Audiences began to notice the strain. Instead of genuine deals, episodes leaned into scripted drama, Corey threatening to quit, Chumlee messing up in predictable ways, or the crew going on improbable road trips to chase a rare item. What was once endearing chaos now looked like manufactured tension. The term "jumping the shark" was coined for shows that overreached to stay relevant, and Pawn Stars had leapt head first. The once authentic dive bar of reality TV had been remodeled into a chain restaurant. The sign was the same, but the soul was gone. For die-hard fans, this wasn't just a decline. It was a betrayal of the very magic that had hooked them in the first place. The decline of authenticity. If the celebrity cameos and spin-offs signaled overexposure, the erosion of authenticity sealed the show's fate. The heart of Pawn Stars had always been its family dynamic. Rick, the sharp negotiator; the old man, gruff but grounding; Corey and Chumlee, the younger voices balancing the shop's energy. But as the years passed, even this foundation began to weaken. The old man's presence grew rare as his health declined, and when he passed away in 2018, fans felt it like the loss of a cornerstone. He wasn't just comic relief. He was the anchor, the weight that kept the show grounded. Without him, the chemistry shifted, and the absence was impossible to ignore. Rick himself grew more polished, less the hustler behind the counter, and more the television host hitting his marks. Corey, once portrayed as the reluctant heir, slipped into the role of weary middle manager, and Chumlee, who had once been a breakout star, became trapped in caricature, repeating the same bumbling antics until spontaneity gave way to routine. The episodes reflected this decline. The rhythm was painfully familiar. An item entered, Rick called his buddy, an expert delivered a lecture, a price was debated, and the deal wrapped neatly within minutes. What had once felt alive with unpredictability began to feel like a script rehearsed one too many times. Meanwhile, the culture outside the pawn shop was evolving. On YouTube, resellers streamed deals in real time. Thrift hunters on TikTok uncovered treasures live before thousands of viewers. Reddit communities crowdsourced appraisals faster than any TV expert could. Compared to this unfiltered energy, Pawn Stars looked staged, a relic of a slower, more controlled era of television. The thrill of discovery that once defined the series had faded. What began as lightning in a bottle now felt like lightning trapped in a jar, its spark dimming with each passing season. Behind the pawn, real-life struggles. As the show's shine faded, the real cracks appeared far from the cameras. In 2022, Rick Harrison found himself entangled in a painful lawsuit, not with a rival, but with his own mother. She claimed she was coerced into signing over her share of the business while recovering from a coma, accusing Rick of withholding financial records and family assets. The man known for calm negotiation was suddenly facing turmoil at home. Corey Harrison, too, struggled to prove he was more than the heir to a brand. In 2013, he was arrested for DUI after swerving into a bike lane. He blamed a medical condition, but the incident stirred questions about stability behind the scenes. Earlier, he had fought Rick and his grandfather for partial ownership, demanding his place in a business built on legacy. And then there was Chumley. In 2016, he was arrested after police found guns and drugs in his home during a separate investigation. While he avoided jail, the scandal nearly ended his time on the show. Yet, in the years that followed, he lost weight, completed counseling, and slowly rebuilt public trust. The most devastating blow came in 2024, when Rick's son, Adam, died of a fentanyl overdose. A quiet, private figure, Adam's death sent shockwaves through the family. What unfolded behind the pawn counter was far heavier than any deal. It wasn't entertainment anymore. It was real life. The legacy and why it matters. Las Vegas still glitters, but for Pawn Stars, the shine has dimmed. The gold and silver pawn shop stands more as a landmark than a lifeline. Its counters crowded less with haggling locals and more with curious tourists chasing a memory. The old man's passing in 2018 didn't just mark the end of a life, it marked the fading of the show's heartbeat. Pawn Stars had promised that history could walk in off the street at any moment, that treasures were waiting in the hands of ordinary people. For nearly a decade, that illusion held strong. But once the spontaneity was replaced by scripts and spectacle, the magic that drew millions began to slip away. And yet, the legacy endures. Pawn Stars remains a time capsule of an era when reality television felt new, when a family pawn shop could briefly stand at the center of pop culture. It reminds us that authenticity is fragile, dazzling while it lasts, but fleeting once the cameras take over. Because in the end, Pawn Stars wasn't just about objects bought and sold. It was about belief, the belief that anything might walk through that door. And when that belief shattered, so too did the spell. The lights of Las Vegas still glitter, but the magic inside the pawn shop has dimmed. What once felt unstoppable quietly unraveled until the illusion itself was gone. In the end, Pawn Stars wasn't defeated by rivals or ratings. It was undone by the one thing it couldn't fake: authenticity.